Hey everybody, I just made a little short video of this subject, but I just want to talk a little more. So today is a pretty cloudy day. Maybe you can tell it's sprinkling right now, and this whole week is beautiful weather. It's unseasonably cool, very rainy. I shut all my sprinkler timers off. It's good for growing. It's going to help a lot of trees recover from the droughts last year and the extreme heat we had last week. But this right here is my solar powered air pump. Not that solar panel. That solar panel you're seeing right there is going down to control that sprinkler, which is a bit clogged. I'm gonna try to work on a solution with a better filter so it doesn't clog as easily. But this air pump is working very, very good, you know? Last week I made a video showing these things, and I still, for the price, would probably say the same thing I said last week. This was $174. It's definitely a good product, and only time will tell how long it'll hold up. If it holds up twice as long as the cheap one, then it's definitely worth it. I bought a cheap one that has 2 air stones. This one has enough to supply 5. The other one that has 2 air stones, I would recommend only 1, honestly, even though it came with a splitter. The other one was $32 I checked online, and getting multiple of those would probably be, especially if you're on a budget, but if this one lasts 2 years, if it survives a while, because it's so powerful, it'll be good. You see how it's just going bloop, bloop, little burst of air? Listen to it. That, I'm sure, is not good for it, but it is made to be outside, and that is normal wear and tear on cloudy days or between dusk and dawn when it doesn't have the operating power to run properly. It's been doing that basically since I got it, because it's been cloudy all week. Today, we got a little burst of sunshine that I showed in a short video I made, and it was running so powerful. It was agitating the water so much down there, which is a good thing. There are a couple little fish in here that we accidentally brought here last year. They survived the winter in the pond. That's why the pond is so deep. That's going down about 4 feet, maybe 3.5 feet. I did that so it can't freeze solid, so things can actually survive the winter in the bigger pond. The tadpoles are getting much bigger now. The bigger ones are actually getting nubs on the back for their legs. In the wild, most frogs don't go on to reproduce. Only about 2%, 1% actually reproduces. And only about 3 or 4%, I think it's even lower than that, will actually turn into a frog. Most of these in here are going to get eaten by the very first frogs to convert, or the big bullfrogs that are already here. I never brought bullfrogs to the property, just the parents of some of these. Some of these tadpoles I rescued from a drainage ditch this year. Some of them are from the frogs I rescued last year. Probably more than half of the tadpoles you see in this pond were from the relocated relocated eggs last year. The same frogs that grew up here last year, they laid thousands of eggs themselves. But this right here, the air filter, is a good thing to have. It actually helps remove ammonia that they're causing with their waste. Every now and then with this pipe, which goes 150 feet up the hill, I just heard a bullfrog, 150 feet up the hill to the house. This goes into my sump pump pit to eliminate the sump pump. My water table is so high that even without the liner, a good time of year, this pond would be almost full. A lot of times, the water table's above the basement floor, so the sump pumps that during those times sometimes turn on every 2 minutes, which is scary because if they ever broke down, even though I have a battery backup, I don't like that liability, especially having a finished room in the basement and thousands of dollars worth of appliances down there. So I had this drain line put in by a guy last year for about $2,500. Came out with his excavator, dug a line, put this 4-inch pipe all the way from the sump pump pit. I am fortunate enough to have the elevation to do that. Most houses wouldn't be able to do that unless you were tying it in with the city drain system, which I definitely wouldn't want, especially knowing how city municipalities, if that's even the right how you pronounce it, maintain their drainage systems. Yeah, it'll back up all the storm water from the road into your house. I wouldn't trust that, but I know usually they'll let you tie into it to your basement. Anyways, I didn't want to deal with the sump pump, so all the water comes here. More than half of the year when the water table's high enough, or after a big rainstorm, this will be running fresh water into the pond, and it's got a drain on the other side with a filter so the tadpoles or fish cannot leave into the forest where it gets discharged. Sometimes I just put the garden hose that I have above the sump pump pit into here, and we're able to flush 8 gallons a minute. Just 2 days ago, I went ahead and I probably did a 50% water change. It's well water. There is no chlorine. It's perfect water coming out of the ground for them. And because the water change, this is a 6,000 gallon pond at about 8 gallons a minute. That takes about half a day to do a 50% water change, almost half a day. And it will slowly adjust them to the temperature change that may be coming out of there, or the pH change. The ammonia drop, it will slowly acclimate them over like a 10-12 hour period, which is perfect for them. Yep, that's a very good system we got in place. We can just send water down. You see that little wire coming out? That's a heat cable. It just goes into the pond and it's lost. It needs to be kept cool. Yeah. Anyways, people in the video of me installing that heat cable were saying it can't touch itself because it was wrapped around the end. The instructions said nothing about that, but just to be safe, I threw the end in the water. I did that because the end of this almost froze solid where water couldn't come out, meaning it would back up into the house and the pumps would have to turn back on. I do not run that on a daily basis at all, but that heat cable is there just in case I discover an ice dam or hear the pump turn on. I'll plug it in the wall for like 30 minutes. Once it melts a little channel, I'll blast water down to melt it back out again. If I was ever gone for like a couple weeks on a trip in the wintertime, I would just put it on a timer for it turns on like a half an hour a day. That would definitely solve the problem. And an ice dam is not going to form in a day, so maybe a half an hour. It would have to be every day. Timers that have more than 24 hours on them are kind of expensive, and it wouldn't really matter. I have timers that are sensitive enough on the quarter hour. The ones where you push down the little tabs or you insert the little tab. Where's the bullfrog that we're hearing right now? Is he in the water? No, he's right there. Look at that. These guys are pretty tame because they're used to me coming out. Bloop. But they won't let you touch them, which is a good thing to have fear, because the raccoon or the bear would just come by and eat them. Something ate a good amount of tadpoles from one of the ponds, but I mentioned that's natural. They're a prey animal. But I think this aeration system is pretty nice. So we got this wire coming over here to a more sunny area. This pond is shade more than half of the day. Got this big panel right here, which is supplying. It's got a little kickstand. And in the wintertime, this and my more expensive fountains will come in. In the wintertime with your solar fountains, you want to make sure this right here is disconnected, because if it's not, even if it's getting the slightest amount of light, it could be going vroom, vroom, every couple minutes, the impeller, and it could burn itself out without the cooling or lubrication of water. Want to disconnect that. We got this nice little sign here in the mail. I went on the internet and I filled out a form online, which is pretty easy, to be able to get the place certified as a wildlife habitat and a wildlife refuge from a different company online. So we got this nice metal, heavy metal sign. I don't think I shoved it in the ground enough because it hit a rock, but that's okay. This nice metal sign there, you buy them and they're overpriced because it's a donation also going towards the organization. This right here was about $90, and I got a cheaper sign for $30 through a different wildlife thing, which has not shown up yet. I have ones that say wildlife refuge boundary line, no trespassing, and they're brown signs that are reflective, very professional looking, like something the state would put up, and it even has some logo in the corner from where it came from. I forget which federal organization they're from, but I'll show them in the mail. I'll just have to cover up the bottom because it has the property address and my organization name on it. You see the lettuce down there in the water. That's for the tadpoles to eat. I don't know if anyone's going to complain or not. I haven't publicly posted any of the videos of feeding the lettuce, but they do not really like the lettuce. We'll try a different type of lettuce. We're also going to try watermelon maybe today or tomorrow. I heard they love watermelon, and they'll eat the rind and everything. Most people assume the rind on a watermelon, you can't eat it. Yeah, you can. In fact, when I was in the tortoise videos a few years ago giving him it, he preferred it. He ate the red stuff last because he likes the big crunch. and doesn't really care about the sweetness. I don't know if a tortoise can even taste how sweet it is, but we're also going to try cucumbers. I didn't buy those yet because I didn't want them to go bad. Watermelon will be our next video of that. What I was saying, I know somebody will probably complain because this is iceberg lettuce. Iceberg lettuce does not contain a lot of minerals. It's mostly water. You know, it's garbage food, kind of junk food, if you want to say it that way. Yeah, romaine is the way to go, but I did not buy the romaine. The store I went to did not have it at the moment, so I just bought these. This is not their only thing. I am giving them various types of fish flakes, pellets, algae wafers along with that. And this bigger pond and one of my other ponds, they're big enough for the population. They're basically self-sustaining. That's why it's growing so much algae. It's growing it faster than they can eat it. So they do have a good amount of natural food with my supplements. So I know someone might say that. It's just like with the tortoise videos years ago. The tortoise is huge. You know how much it eats? Giving it a head of iceberg lettuce, I know it's like junk food, but it loves the crunch. And as long as that's not their only food, it's not a problem giving it to the animals. As long as it's not their only food. And I also believe if this was their only food, there's also something in it that they may not be able to have that's, I mean, in high quantities. Now look at this. It's starting to rain again. I love this week. I was able to shut down all my sprinkler timers, although it doesn't really bother me. All I got to do is pay the electric bill for the pumping system out of the well, and I'm not worried about the wells drying up. I have a 200-foot drilled well, and it's filled up with 192 feet inside it. Not drying up anytime soon, but I am so thankful I don't have a water bill. I love having a well. Even if I move somewhere with city water, I'd probably drill my own well. But I would never move into a city district like that. Too many pesticides. You wouldn't be able to have a wildlife refuge with insecticides and lawn killers, you know. Here in the middle of nowhere without that stuff, we have wild strawberries, we have wild blueberry bushes everywhere, wild raspberries, blackberries, all kinds of things on the property I let grow because it attracts the animals. Look what we got right here. These are not the wild blueberries. This is an actual blueberry bush. Got about a dozen of these on the property. These grow big blueberries, bigger than marbles. 2 years ago, we produced enough to almost fill a 5-gallon bucket with them. That was so delicious until I realized almost every single one had little worms crawling out of them. Oh well. Only way to prevent that is I'd have to use an insecticide. Maybe I'll do it on just one bush near the house so I can eat them without that problem. But the rest of these, they're free reign if anything else wants to eat them. I was disappointed last year because there weren't any worms affecting them last year. Maybe because it was the heat. Maybe the fruit flies that lay them, like the humidity. Anyways, you can eat them with the worms. It won't hurt you. I looked it up. Those flies are not known to carry anything that would harm you, but it's kind of gross. You squeeze a blueberry and a little worm pops out of the hole. That is very, very gross. Anyways, last year, I didn't get to eat any. Well, I got to eat very few. The turkeys beat me to it. They were picking them all off. But maybe I'll get some this year, or maybe the bear will beat me to it. In my state, you are not allowed to knowingly feed a bear. That is illegal. Department of Fish and Game will give you a warning, and they will give you a fine or prison time if you keep continuing after a warning. I am not knowingly feeding a bear at all. There's just bears around because we have lots of water sources around here. That's the only thing attracting a bear, but that doesn't count when I went through that law. Plus, there's water everywhere. We're going to say if you have a trickling stream or a pond on your property, you're attracting a bear. No, they can't say that. But if you're actually putting food scraps out, I hate wasting food, but I have to this time of year because of those guys. In the winter time, I'll throw basically all my table scraps off the porch for raccoons and stuff, but it's the bear. That is against the law in my state to feed them. And the reason is, if you keep giving a bear table scraps, whether you think it or not, the table scraps, they're going to be able to smell you on it. They're going to know it came from a human, and they can smell you all over a house. It'll make the bear comfortable approaching people, which could cause an attack. It also could cause bears to start breaking into people's houses. In either of those cases, if they attack or kill a human, or they break into a house, usually the animal needs to be put down. In a rare occasion, they'll be put in a zoo or a wildlife refuge with big fences, big electric fences and walls, where they can be looked at by people, but usually that is not the case, unfortunately. Thanks for watching, everybody. Maybe we'll make a watermelon video later.